Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the It's Just Dinner podcast. I'm your host, Tom Robinson, and with me and sitting right next to me is my co-host, Bob Walz.
Right here. Thanks, Tom. Great to be here again, as always.
It's good to see you.
You're looking good today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, we had an event on Monday that we went to, and it was at the Varsity Theater here at BYU.
And might I say, Tom, you were so funny. I mean, he was hilarious. I mean, this guy is, people say he looks like Steve Martin, but he is Steve Martin. He was funnier than Steve Martin was in the audience. That was a good joke. He was writing him down. You had him laughing. You had him crying. You had it was all.
So big shout out to the YSA third stake.
They were great.
It was a great crowd. So thank you so much for having us.
There were about 250 kids in that crowd. They filled the entire Varsity Theater, and it was rocking.
It was rocking, and it was a lot of fun.
It was.
To all you third stakers out there, thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun. Hey, I'm excited about today's episode. We have some really great guests, and we're excited that you guys would come to see us. Across from me is Bob Carroll, who is the co-founder of the Mutual app.
True.
Welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
It's so exciting to have you. And right next to him is, since I'm an advertising person, this is the more important person to me, is the marketing director of the Mutual app, Tiah Westover.
Hi.
Welcome, Tiah.
Welcome, Tiah. Glad to have you here.
Thanks.
It's so good to have you, and I thank you for taking your time to come see us. And I know this is a huge market for you here at BYU. And
have a few users.
You have a few users here.
Geography.
I even had one young man go over his profile with the class the other day and have the girls in the class help him edit his profile. So these are big time users here at BYU. But maybe to get us started, I just was curious as kind of the history of the Mutual app, and how did it start? Where did it start? How did you determine the need for this? There's a big need, but how did you work all that out?
You know, I was serving in a YSA bishopric in Arizona, in Tempe, Arizona. We meet on campus at Arizona State University. And similar to the Provo area, there are YSA stakes in Phoenix. We have 5 YSA stakes. And I had a ward member come up to me and said, "Hey, you know, I've got this business idea," and I asked the bishop who to go to, who could execute on this, and he mentioned your name, and I literally knew at that moment what he was going to say.
Wow!
And my wife and I were teaching a celestial relations class at the time, and so we'd have a lot of post-class discussion about the kind of the availability of couples and how they could get together more easily. And so we were matched up by our bishop. We were the first mutual match.
Wow.
Cooper and I.
Wow.
And it was
that's Cooper Boyce, right?
Cooper Boyce, groundbreaking. And so that was where it started. It started in Tempe, and obviously with BYU being a huge market, we did our first official launch event in July of 2016. We launched it in April of 2016.
On the perfect date.
On the perfect date.
Yeah.
April 26th, if you know the movie. Miss Congeniality was when we launched it. And but in July, we threw a little rager at the King Henry Apartments.
Oh, nice.
Back on the back lawn.
My daughter used to live there.
We had DJs and all sorts of inflatable games and snow cones and things like that. And we gave out tickets if you download the app. And I think that evening we had about 1,000 downloads that added to the user base, which was growing. And obviously we wanted this BYU, Provo, Orem area population to seed the market. And we wanted, being in a YSA ward at the time, one of the big goals was I want the community on this app to look exactly like you'd see if you walk through any chapel.
Oh, yeah.
The names, the faces, and you'd swipe through it, and literally that's what I feel like we have today.
I think so, too.
Wonderful community.
How many downloads do you have today?
We've had over 1 million accounts created.
Wow.
And
so in 6 years, a little over 6 years, you've gone from 1,000 on that first launch to more than 1 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's
is that just because of Tiah? Are you taking responsibility for that person?
I wish I could.
Oh, come on.
She's done a great job with the marketing.
She has.
She has.
So this was kind of based on a need. You saw a need, and you took this action to fill a void.
Cooper had just graduated from BYU,
right.
moved to Arizona, and said, wow, there's less people here. I'm not walking on campus every day. How am I going to solve my problem,
right.
which is I need to find a spouse? And so it was need-based. And at that point in time, he said, boy, if we could just do what some of the other dating apps that have just come out,
right.
that were replacing the dating websites, if we could do that for our own population, our own community, it would be fantastic.
Wow. Yeah. What percentage are members of the church as compared to non-members?
I would guess.
Just a guess.
99+%.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. Although, we like to say visitors welcome.
Right.
Of course.
It's posted on the front of every building, and so we don't hold that. It's not exclusionary to prevent people or not activate their accounts. And we've even seen it as a bit of a missionary tool.
Right.
And I'll tell the story quickly, but I was on the stand at a baptism on a Saturday. Our bishop was out of town. He said, Bob, could you step in? And so I'm on the stand presiding there, and a young lady gets baptized and comes back in afterwards. And I said, would you like to say a few words? And she said, sure. And I had been disconnected from the ward mission effort as far as this person went. And she said, well, let me tell you my story. I had just broken up with a guy, and I was working at a gym, and I worked at the front counter checking in new customers. And I worked with so-and-so, who had just baptized her. And she said, I was distraught. And he said, you know what? You need to download Mutual. He said, there's great guys on here.
All right.
There's a bunch of Mormon boys that you're going to love. And she said, I don't know much about the church. And he said, well, we can fix that too. So not only did he introduce her to Mutual, but to the missionaries. And within a few months, she was baptized.
Wow, that's exciting.
I'm on the stand. Obviously, everybody in the ward knows what my affiliation is. She has zero knowledge.
That's cool.
And all eyes come on me, and I go sheet red. And it's like, but it was just a wonderful experience that I would have never anticipated.
That's exciting.
So it's good to have no gates that are too high for individuals to get on if they have pure intent.
Right.
Now, when you look at your demographics, are you getting more females, more males? Is it about split between the two?
Yeah, it's pretty close to 50-50. I think we have slightly more men than women, which is interesting because it's opposite of what the church is as far as like the single population goes. Yeah. But we have a few more men there.
And then age range?
So the majority of them are Gen Z. So I think we're looking at like 50% of our audience is Gen Z, and then we kind of, I think it's 30-40% is millennial, and it trickles down the older it gets.
Okay, so pretty much who your audience is: LDS, 50% male and female, and Gen Z. And so that's a pretty good audience. It's good to identify your audience. So what do you do to market to that audience? What are your procedures that you do to get the word out, to get people to download your app?
I think one of the first things or one of the most important things is it's word of mouth. Everyone, anywhere we go, people are like, oh, my sister, she met her husband on Mutual, or that's not marketing you can buy. It's grassroots.
Absolutely.
It's the result of an amazing product that has had great success. And so a lot of times it's relying on those success stories. Our goal is to create eternal marriages. And so when we have those, we try to capture the story and share them out because, dating apps can be a little bit of a joke until all of a sudden you're engaged.
Until they're not.
Until they're not. And so when that happens.
So I heard on Monday when I mentioned this, we had a couple of groans in the audience, and I said Mutual, but they all have profiles.
Well, it's one of those things that people like to say, dating apps, but people use them. I have 3 sons, and they all used your app, and none of them found their spouse that way, but they got a lot of dates that way. They found a lot of people that they could connect with in the community. And so it was a real value to them to be able to do that.
And going back to the origin, at that time, 2015, 2016, there was a pervasive thought that dating was not happening, that it was a hangout culture.
Yeah,
you'd hear about it.
It's still that way.
You'd hear about it in conference talks. You'd hear about it in other ways. And so, it was very intentional that we wanted dating to happen, just like the mission of your podcast. Right? It's just dinner. Hey, don't, let's not overthink this. And we saw firsthand that that did change.
Yeah.
I would be at a pizza place and run into somebody from the ward, and they'd say, "Hey, I just got to tell you, I went out on Monday night off Mutual, and I'm going out tomorrow night, and I got a date for the weekend." And these were individuals who just and everybody is worth a date.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Because you got to respect everybody's time, what their experiences are, and just learning and expanding your horizons. And for that, just to see the excitement though that they said, I'm going on dates, was really reinforced the fact that we hit the mark.
Yeah.
So just so you know, we totally love what you guys do because it's so in league with what we're doing here. So,
100%.
So everybody out there, if you haven't downloaded Mutual,
you need to
do it right now. Just pull out your phone right now and fill out your profile. What recommendations do you have for people when they're filling out their profile? What are what should they put in? And
this is a big deal because a lot of people just really don't know.
Yeah, I think the main thing is be yourself. Everyone's not swiping for the same thing. They're not looking for the same thing. When I first started at Mutual, one of the first projects I wanted to do is I wanted to look at the top, 200 male and top 200 women, female, so like the most swiped profiles, and I looked at the least swiped profiles, and I ended up ditching the project because I was like, I was hoping to find like actionable things and advice I can give them, like, oh well, if you're tall, dark, and handsome, you're going to get all the swipes. Well, and that just wasn't the case. It was everyone was some of the most swiped ones were people that I was like, oh yeah, I personally don't find you that attractive, and some I'm like, oh, I think you're very attractive, and so there's someone for everyone. It's all heights, it's all everything, but it's about being yourself because you can only I'm from the South, we talk about hiding your crazy. You can only hide your crazy for so long, and so just be who you are.
It's gonna come out.
Yeah.
I think just being willing to have fun as well and put yourself out there. And
that's what this is all about.
Yeah, we talked about, it is a joke. We're in on the joke. We know what it is. And in a sense, sometimes that's just to protect yourself, right? We're all sensitive.
Oh, absolutely.
We're built with emotions, and we should have those, and especially on the topic of love, right? I mean, that's where will you get a roller coaster ride, anything like it.
Right.
If you want the ultimate thrill, be willing to put your heart on the line and go on that ride. And so you have to be able to have fun with it and not protect yourself so much by saying, oh, it's just a joke.
Oh, yeah.
And just find that balance, right? And taking breaks is healthy at times, right? But timing's everything too. And we hear so many stories of, I just got back on, or I just changed my age range. And I sat down with a dear friend a month ago, and he's in my demographic, not in Tiah's demographic. And, he had set an age range that was his age and 10 years below. And that was what he thought would be the right, what he was interested in. And a little prompt came up from the Mutual app and said, if you extend your age range by 2 years on the top end, you'll match with X number more individuals.
Right.
And so he took that prompt, boom, and he matched. Now 3-4 months into a relationship, we're watching it, but just happy
Very
as
exciting.
could be. And he just didn't know. And so it is a tool. You talk about your son's using it. Yeah. We use tools. And it is merely a tool, right? Yeah. And it's a tool you want to have.
I liked what you said about being willing to put yourself out there. And I think a lot of times the kids, at least my experience has been, they hide. And they hide in their apartment. In a lot of ways, they expect the door to knock. And so there'll be somebody there that wants to date them. And I like this. And it's really simple to do is you create a profile and just put yourself out there and just see what happens. Because a lot of really good things could happen if you allow yourself to do that.
Yeah. And I think that, people ask, like, why a dating app as opposed to just in person, right? Wouldn't that be more effective? Obviously, the reach is one.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
We have the world's largest singles ward.
Right.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
And that's wonderful that you have that reach. But we are less comfortable, for whatever training we have these days, to go up and walk to an individual, person to person. My name's Bob. I'd like to introduce myself, and either express interest or just even try to break into a social conversation sometimes. But to swipe through somebody is a no-brainer because we do it on all our other social media channels.
Yeah, we do.
And so it's much simpler to do that. And I'm great with that. We all, again, we have our set of insecurities we come with. So how do we have a tool to get us around that? And I don't mind you being in your apartment, quote unquote, hiding, but you can put yourself out there while you're still maybe avoiding some of the discomfort, because you may also find somebody who's also a little less comfortable with that social environment that sometimes gets spun up at YSA Awards, and people aren't always looking for the same thing.
I have kids ask me all the time when I'm giving these presentations is, what do you think of dating apps? Or what do you think of Mutual? And I say, I love them. I think they're great. And especially if you're using them to meet someone, to go to dinner, and to sit and talk. I love them. I said they can be abused like anything else, but if that's what you're using them for, I absolutely think they're the greatest thing in the world, because, like you said, all of a sudden my arms reach out to a lot of people that I wouldn't have had access to, and I get to meet a lot more people. I get to make a lot more friends.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times with my students, when they're married, I ask, how did you meet? And they kind of embarrassingly say, well, we met on a dating app, like it was something. But I've noticed over the years that has become a lot less that way.
Right.
It's becoming more and more common for people to meet their spouse on a dating app. And so there's not the stigma that there was probably even when you started this company 5-6 years ago. You've probably seen that too, where this has become more normalized in our culture and really in the U.S. culture of people meeting over an electronic device.
Wedding research right now shows that it's between 60 and 70% of people who will get married will have met their spouse online.
I believe that.
Yeah.
So this really, the function of this really met what your objective was when you started this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that's got to be rewarding.
It is. And we have plenty of work to do still.
Well, I agree. We do too. That's why you're here. I was wondering this. I had some kids in my class earlier this week, and we were talking about you guys coming, and they mentioned that your app has changed quite a bit. And so, can you tell us a little bit about that? Maybe Tiah, can you? Tell everybody listening how the app has changed.
So we recently released a tab bar that at the bottom it's easier to go through, and you have different queues. So you have one queue that you can swipe through everyone. You can set your filters to whatever you want. But then we also have the second queue that you can kind of tab over to. And it is all people who have already swiped up on you. And so it's a guaranteed match every time. And so it's the sort of thing where you can go through and it's just like, okay, yes, no, or now we even have this like maybe. It can just kind of sit there for a little bit while you're deciding, because sometimes you're like, I'm talking to this one person, like, let's see where it goes, but like, I kind of want to keep this person here just
let
in
it breathe
case. Let them be there, because I'm not so sure yet. And so we have these different tabs, and we just released rich profiles, and so people can go in and they can add additional photos in it, and they can add comments to it and say like, oh, this was when I was on my trip in Costa Rica, and like I love to travel, and kind of give a little bit more context so that people have things to have conversations about.
I love it.
And so we're working to facilitate this genuine connection, and so something I might not be able to say, but we have a release that's coming soon where...
Oh, come on, let us know.
Yeah, I'm just going to share it here.
Release it here on the Just Dinner podcast.
Exclusive here.
Yeah, but you'll be able to respond directly to these rich profiles. So it's the first of several rollouts, so that instead of like having to come up with a pickup line or be like, hi is a great pickup line in person, because you can have like, it starts a conversation.
Right.
On a dating app, it doesn't start a conversation. It's just like, okay, and
yeah, that's all you got.
That's all you got for me. All right, I'm gonna go talk to the other guy that said like, hi, how are you? And so by having these conversation prompts where you can kind of go directly and comment and like and start the match from there, you can be like, oh, you know what, I was in Costa Rica last year too, like, did you see X, Y, and Z? And then all of a sudden it's a more organic and natural conversation where people are able to facilitate this genuine connection and hopefully like move it off app.
That's
go to dinner.
So let me understand, but what you're saying here is one of the criticisms that some people say is just based on looks.
Yeah.
But now what you're saying is you're going to base it on commonality. So you can find somebody who might maybe the looks isn't the most important thing, but the thing they like the same things that you like.
Yeah,
which is kind of what we normally do in regular face-to-face. We initially use looks as a way to say if I want to talk to you, but it's usually the things we have in common that brings us closer to that core relationship.
Exactly.
And so you're finding a way to facilitate that on the app.
Yeah. Looks are just a baseline here. When you start seeing that personality, like affection can grow, and you start seeing someone who might not have been like truly attractive, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, like hello, I see you now. I was talking to one of our coordinators earlier today, and she was talking to some friends who met on the app, and she was like, she was like, I thought he was goofy and I almost didn't swipe up on him, but he asked me out and we went out, and I was like, wow, he's amazing. That's
great.
And she gave him a chance, and now they are engaged, and they're going to get married later this year. Yeah. That's what it's about.
Well, see, I would be more interested in a marginally looking person who was a Dodgers fan than an incredibly attractive person who was a Diamondbacks fan.
Boo.
Go Braves.
So when we launched the app originally, we had mission location, and that became one of the conversations. Oh, I served there too, or I've traveled there. And there were prompts, but it was kind of very linear as far as how you'd follow that in your chat message. And so with what Tiah's describing, it's much more interactive. It's almost as you're looking at somebody's social media feed with multiple things to then engage in conversations off of, either through commenting or liking or something like that.
I will tell you this, that the students I talk to love the way you've changed the app.
Good.
They've made really positive comments in class the other day. They absolutely love it.
That's why we did it.
Good.
We have I'll just make a plug, because sometimes these guys don't get the credit, but we have a great team of developers.
Good.
And my background's computer science, so that was why I did get brought in with Cooper. And so hiring great engineers makes the big difference.
Sure.
Because you then set the standard and you say, how do we want this to look? And even on initial design, when we first launched the app, it was, we want every pixel. It's edge to edge image, and that was different than what a lot of other dating apps were doing. And again, not to focus on attraction, but just design concepts, good design with the right fonts and the right colors to enhance that with some of the metadata on it was really important. And so our dev team continues to, and our design team continues to stay ahead of the trends to make sure that we're giving a great user experience, because there's a lot of technology out there, and you know what? It's no fun to use technology that isn't great.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I did want to ask you, what's the difference between Mutual and the other dating apps? Can you give us some idea about that?
Well,
in particular, I know that one that's got popular around here is Hinge.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's gotten really popular in this area. So give me a little promo here. How are you different than all those other ones that kids might be using?
So I'll take a stab at it, and then Tiah will tag team on this
Great.
one. But well, first of all, there can only be one number one dating app,
That's
right? For members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and Mutual is it. We found out today that actually that could be substantiated, because last night in Jimmy Kimmel's monologue going through Valentine's Day and good ways to meet people, he actually highlighted Mutual for Mormons.
Wow. So you're on Jimmy Kimmel and the It's Just Dinner podcast.
I know.
And this has got to be the biggest thing ever happened in your life.
This is. No.
We started small yesterday. The crescendo
kind of
is today.
Yeah. Jimmy called us and told us about that last night.
So obviously he didn't swipe through the App Store and find the number 3 or number 4 dating app.
Absolutely.
So, that was a fun plug that we had there. But I think that the other difference is the curated community, and when we talked about this so much when we started this, is we have to be protective. And I grew up a Dodger fan.
Yeah,
Orange County.
I knew I liked.
I did too. I have to admit.
Good. Some people is because it was the only thing was on the radio.
Only thing we had.
On
That's
the radio.
right.
Vince Scully and Jerry Doggett. But I used to bring guys that I played basketball with in high school, and sometimes if you needed a court. Right, the court's at the Stake Center.
Right,
and certain times there's time out, guys. We don't say that here. That's off limits. And you define the community standard, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Right, they're sorry because it's a great court and they want to be invited back, and you just set the tone. And we had to do that, but you have to stay on top of it, right? Because if you don't monitor it, then you lose it. And I wanted that community, like I said, to look exactly like YSA awards. And so we have a curated community.
Right.
We have a protected community, and we spend an immense amount of technology dollars on the back end for what we can automate to prevent bad things from happening, and then just the manual efforts of our support team that go through and review all the profiles, and review in case users of the community report somebody say that was a foul, that was not that wasn't cool, what that person said or did, and then we take.
Do you get a lot of that?
No, it's minor. I talked about how many accounts have been created, and if you take anything that might appear to be grievous, I count on my hands, and so we don't get a lot of it, but we do get a lot of it at the lower level. It's like sifting, and so if you sift it out at the smaller level, I think it prevents worse things happening to a greater.
I did want to get into safety, but I did want to find out about Hinge really quick.
Please.
And then, so how do you compare with some of these other ones that are trying to really hard to get into your market?
Yeah. So our goal is to create eternal marriages. We hope you meet on mutual. Wherever you meet, though, we're happy with it. On average, most people have 2 or 3 dating apps on their phone at any given time. So as long as mutual's one of it, great. Yeah. You can meet the same person on, Tinder and Hinge and Bumble and Mutual, and the way they behave on the date depends on which one you're engaging them with.
That's true.
And so if you're meeting someone on Tinder, they're probably looking to hook up with you. And there's just this knowledge and this agreement there that, okay, this is how we're going to behave. We kind of know the rules of the rules of play and etiquette around this because of where we met. When you meet that mutual, you know that it has different intents. You're going to behave differently than you would on a different app.
Right.
And we don't mean to not have fun.
No. Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
We want to have a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
A lot of good, clean fun. And the intent is really important on that.
Right.
So generally, your user experience is that when they go on your date, when they go on a Tinder date, some of my kids have had some very bad experiences because there is kind of that expectation that this is a hookup site, and so they don't know going into it what they're getting into, but they always had confidence in mutual that the people they were going to meet there were not interested in hooking up. They were interested in developing a relationship.
And there's a place for Tinder. There's a place for Hinge, Bumble.
Sure.
They all have their spot, and so obviously we filled a need, and we'll continue to focus on that.
Let's go over to safety really quick, because I know a lot of the young women and some of the young men have some concerns about safety, stalking. All of a sudden somebody turning out to not be who they said they were. Yeah, and I know you guys have taken some really strong measures to protect people. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. One is verifications. What we've done is manually verify through photos that the person is the same image of the person that they're putting in profile photos. So if you want to catfish somebody, you just take some good-looking guy, not me, right? Photos. You build a profile, and then through the profile verification, it says, great, now turn your camera on, take a picture with a Book of Mormon, take a picture showing a scout sign. We have a few different cues that are in there, and now upload that, and now we have a visual match. And so we can visually match whether it's the same image of the same individual.
And that's done by humans on our support team.
Great.
That's not done by a computer. We want to keep it with people so that it's not something you can easily trick. We can see those differences, so there's that layer of safety.
So real accounts, account validation is huge for us. The second one then is are people well-intended? And that's tough.
That's tough.
And I remember one of the first times after a mutual launch, and the bishop of the ward that I was his first counselor said, hey, this instance came up, and they said they met on your app, and it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back, like the final aha moment for him that, this thing must be bad, right?
Right.
And I said, probably they could have, right? Just as they could have met on Sunday at Sacrament or Monday at FHA or anywhere else. And he's like, oh, I guess you're right. And so I think, but we do want to have well-intended individuals on there. And so I think Tiah mentioned, about setting the tone and what the intention is. And then how do you find out if somebody is poorly intended? So we do have some back-end automation that we do that can look at that, but it's largely dependent on the community to report. And so sometimes, I'll get a Monday night FHE story. Hey, you know, Brother Carroll, as I'd be called there, you know, this happened to me. And my first question is, did you report that person?
Right.
Well, yeah, you know, no. And so we've really tried to reinforce the message of it's okay to report. We hold all of that privacy, you know, at the highest regard, but we need to know if somebody's doing something. And so you can find predatory behaviors pretty easily through repetition and through even, you know, what they might be asking for. And my appeal, you know, to an audience would be, don't just, you know, if you saw it, you know, say it type of thing. Don't just, you know, let that person know they're not acting appropriately. Let us know, right? Because you've said that, well, they're going to go on to the next person, and they're going to say the same thing.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so somebody can say things very inappropriate. And that sense of anonymity, even though there's no anonymity, but that sense of being online and what we think of online with anonymity goes, is people's guards are down. And so we'll try to reinforce that message as much as possible, that you are a known entity, you are a person, and you know, the guidelines apply.
Right. Tiah, what advice do you have for the young ladies to, once they've accepted a date on Mutual, to be safe and to make sure they're being very, very cautious of what's going on?
I guess my advice would actually be first to, well, both parties, but primarily men, is like, respect each other. You know, I think there's a big importance of respect. There's a reason safety is a concern of women. And it all starts with respect. It all kind of comes back to that. If someone says no to anything, respect that. You know, a lot of times we falsely praise persistence in dating, and it's like, oh no, like, she meant no, and if she changes her mind, then she can say yes, and then it's okay. Know. But it doesn't mean, oh, talk me into it. It means no for now, and let that be. And so, and then when it comes to, you know, ladies and preparing and being safe, I mean, take the advice of Jacob and be wise. You know, what can I say more?
Yeah, that's good.
Like, it's, you know, probably not the best place to meet him on a first date is in his bedroom. Probably the best place to meet him on a first date's not a remote hike.
No.
You know.
We talked about this. We had somebody do that. So.
Yeah, and it feels like.
And it could be okay.
And it could be okay.
It could turn out and be fine.
It could be totally fine. But when you're meeting, like, you're meeting a stranger, and we hope that, and we're working to keep our community safe, but you don't know what their intentions are. So be smart. Meet somewhere public. You know, we recently launched another app called Mutual Dates, and it is a marketplace, and it's a gallery of dates, and it was intended for this audience so that you can go and have fun options and great dates in safe and public places. And that's what I would recommend.
Bob and I have talked many times about, when you accept a date, a first date, drive separately.
Yeah.
Go to a restaurant.
Yes.
Sit down and have dinner, and then get back in your car and go home.
Right.
And so it's a lot safer to, at least so you can kind of check out what the situation is and what the person's like in person. So.
Right. You have a lot of opportunity to educate and prepare yourself for any moment of safety, not just in dating, but like in general being safe. And so part of that is like on a spiritual level. Are you learning how to listen to the spirit? Because when you're with someone who is uncomfortable, like, and you're uncomfortable, you begin to understand those promptings. Advice. And
I was just telling the kids in class the other day, is that you sit across from someone having dinner, the spirit will tell you, just listen. And the spirit will tell you whether or not this is a good situation that you're in. So I firmly believe what you just said.
But I'm interested in your new product, Mutual Dates.
Yeah, tell us about it.
And so I hadn't heard of that before. How does that work?
So, you know, this actually launched last year, and it kind of stemmed from this beautiful problem we have. You know, we mentioned earlier, like, dating apps can be a little bit of a joke until they're not. And then we get our most loyal customers right as they're leaving us. And we're like, okay, how can we serve this audience that is super thrilled to be part of our mutual community, but, you know, their spouse doesn't want them on Mutual anymore. Like, what do you do at that point? And so we have Mutual Dates, and part of creating eternal marriages are marriages that last. And part of that is, once you're married, you continue dating. You continue going to dinner.
Right.
And so how do you not stay in a dating rut? We have an app here that has experiences. Currently, it's just in Utah, but take a pottery class together. Oh, we have an exclusive discount for you to make this plausible. Go rock climbing. You can go to dinner, and there's some options there as well. Or
and the deals are all centered around couples, right? It's all for two.
Everything is priced for two.
Very smart.
That's great. I hope that works well. Yeah. And so you're just kind of launching this now, test marketing it here in Utah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so this is aimed more at couples, married or people who have become exclusive.
Yes.
And are looking for ideas of things that they can do to keep the candle lit.
Exactly. So it kind of has two purposes. One is the safety purpose that we're talking about. So for those who aren't exclusive couples, having those safe opportunities. The other is aimed absolutely at these couples forming and strengthening their marriages and their relationships.
That's great.
Wow. That's great.
You can get 2 shakes at Burger Supreme for a great price.
It's
download
$4. $4.
So if you download the app,
that's a great dinner.
You download the app and you get a discount at Burger Supreme.
Absolutely. It's a feature built into Mutual.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're married, you don't want to be on Mutual. So we have a standalone app for it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Rock climbing at great discounts, pottery,
wow.
Tacos, crepes, just download it and you'll see all the...
Dating for less. My wife is going to be all over this.
And there's some crazy fun experiences. You can go get a fish pedicure. You can go axe throwing. You can go...
Reflexology.
Yeah, I'm probably the number one purchaser of that. I love the reflexology.
Obviously, the haunted houses and the corn mazes were huge in October for us.
That's so.
And again, doing it at a discount, saving a few bucks, having an idea of something to go do, and as Tiah said, in a safe public place.
So what advice would you have for people who are listening who don't have the app, not the regular Mutual app, these single folks that are out there? What is the last piece of advice to convince them to get on the app?
I feel like I grew up with my plan. I had a plan and, charted out as far as who I'd marry, right? As I went to EFY, I wrote down the top 10 traits that I would find in my future spouse. And that was who I was looking for. And I figured that, as I got out of graduated from college, that was now the time. And my spouse was not, that the path to her was not the path that had been in my mind. And I'll just say, but it was always God's plan.
Oh,
always God's plan for Natalie and myself to be married. And so you kind of have to get out of the way. Mm-hmm. And part of getting out of the way is if you aren't trying everything, and if you aren't focused on a goal, that we think is a worthy goal to have in life, it's going to be life changing. As we told, would tell people in Celestial Relations class, you will make more money. There are temporal... There is research that shows how life changes temporally as you get married compared to singles, and then spiritually as well. And so let the tools work for you. And so, you may think it's a joke, or it's or even as you download it, I made a joke of it when I downloaded it, right? My roommate made me do it, or they created my profile. Just realize it's just part of the directory. You're just saying, really I'm here and I'm single and this is my place on earth, right? You have your other social media accounts. You're this on Instagram, you're that on Facebook, etc. Well, then you're this on Mutual until you're not anymore, and put it out there, and then just use it.
I love that.
And the time, and because you don't know what your timing is either.
Yeah, no.
I got sideswiped on a just dinner. I took out a friend that I needed to get to know better, and I just said, let's just go to dinner. We went to a cafe and on PCH, and next thing I knew, I was asking her back over 2 nights later. I had no idea that it would ever progress to that. It was not a date. And
that's how good it's just dinner is.
Yeah,
it is. Mm-hmm. I love that
conversation.
Now, Tiah, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I think it's like most things in life. You get in what you put out. Like, you get out what you put into it. And it's the kind of, we have about an average 50 million matches a year.
Wow. Wow.
Well, the matching's not the issue. If people are saying we're not getting matches, well, people are swiping up on you, so you need to swipe up more. So first step, if you're not getting a match, it's not other people, it's you. And so swipe up. If you're not getting relationships out of that, are you sending a message to those matches? Are you responding to those who are reaching out to you? Are you taking the time to invest in it and get something out? We heard a story not too long ago. Someone was traveling and was swiping at, she was at the Chicago airport. She swiped. It was the only chance she had. She was swiping for an hour. It was the only time that she would have ever met her now husband.
Wow.
And it's because she took the time to do it, and then she responded. If you don't respond, you're not going to get anything. If you don't reach out and make the first move, like, nothing's going to happen from it. And so it's taking that opportunity to use the app. We have video chat. If you're doing long distance, video chat on the app. There's so many options and so many opportunities to engage, and so you're going to get out what you're putting in.
That's such good advice.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, just swipe up.
Yeah, exactly.
Just swipe up. So great. So well, thank you. We've run out of time. This went so quick.
It's been
you guys
great.
Are amazing.
Learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here. This was just fabulous. Just a reminder, this is Bob Carroll, who is the co-founder of Mutual App, and Tiah Westover, the marketing director. I saw her get a promotion right at the beginning of the show. So, and they are Mutual App, and I would recommend everyone download the app. Mm-hmm. And if you're not on the app, please download it, start using it. If you are on the app, she just said it, swipe up more. And then just be able to go out to dinner, and it'll be great. So, Bob, thanks for hosting with me today.
Great. Tom, I think you would agree that having them on our show is the biggest event that has ever happened in the history of the It's Just Dinner podcast.
Yeah.
This is an historic day.
This is a great. Hey, if you're listening, be sure to send us a review. And if you have any questions, you can always email me at itsjustdinnerysa@gmail.com. Thank you guys again for being here. Lauren, thank you for being at the helm. I really appreciate your work. And hey, everyone, just go have fun out there, will you?